Let's go ahead and do the meeting beginning ritual, everyone. 起立，面向佛堂，参加三鞠躬、一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，参加各位点传师一鞠躬，开班一鞠躬，请坐下。Please be seated.
And hello, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great day. Bill, thank you for your presentation. I always enjoy that very much, and find it quite apropos. Again, given what I'm going to speak about today, it is a quite nice day in Valencia, which is about an hour away from the Yuquandao Temple. And I miss being out there and seeing you guys. I've been trying to figure out a way to get that to happen. But in the meantime, I am sitting at the desk of our facility in Valencia, and happy to do so because it's quite a nice home. Today, I would like to talk about some very similar topics to what Bill brought up. And I think they're certainly interrelated with respect to paths to follow. I'll follow what Derek said with regard to paths that lead to the same or a similar destination. My Tibetan teacher, Lama Gyatso, who I've referenced before, told me that the same analogy, essentially, that all paths lead to the same destination. However, he forewarned me that those who jump from path to path to path to path find difficulty reaching that destination simply because they're spending all their time on the lower portions of the paths and not making forward momentum and progress because of a single-minded focus, which is not to say that one is correct over another, but just simply that when we have directed thoughts and actions, that tends to yield greater progress at a faster rate, I believe. So I too tend to believe that based on what I was taught. So today, what I would like to discuss is actually something that was given to me by a cardiologist who I have come to know. This lady is Chinese and is a quite different brand of cardiologist. She's a Harvard-trained cardiologist from the Western perspective, named Dr. Thinketh, and but she really brings the Eastern perspective to her practice as a cardiologist. And part of what she's prescribed for me, I have a heart arrhythmia that I've mentioned several times that has not healed, so it appears as though, from all Western perspectives, much of this has to do with my own journey and my internal healing process with my practice of Qigong and herbs and meditation in tandem with some of the Western paths. But her treatment for me has been to go on a cleanse, which is a raw vegan cleanse. I've done this before and I feel great every time I do it, but I've embarked on this path again, and it always, being of course vegetarian, I feel great most of the time, but even greater now that I'm doing this with all the raw foods, and have taken the sweets out of my diet, any sugar, all the I've got a sweet tooth, so I like my chocolate bars, even the organic cacao ones. I still like my Chalky bars, and so I've taken all that stuff out and largely eating all plants, eating all salads, has contributed to a much greater clarity in meditation. The other thing that she gave me was a practice that I found interesting. She shared a writing with me from a 19th century English poet whose name is James Allen. This is the gentleman here. He's quite unknown, but he has influenced a great number of writers, particularly those who are proponents of the idea that we direct our thoughts, and as we direct our thoughts, we can move more towards greater success in our life. It's a piece called Serenity that I'm going to read, and then I'm going to read a little bit more about this gentleman. There's not a great deal known about him, except that he wrote for a very short period of time in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and wasn't particularly pleased with his own writings, and was quite surprised that they resonated with a great many people, even though he's not well known. The direction for me, as given by my doctor, was to handwrite this piece for 30 days continuously, so that each morning get up and actually write this piece. And I'm going to read it for you because I think it's quite good, and I think it's a very interesting, again, example of this synthesis of paths from the Eastern perspective and the Western. Serenity. Calmness of mind is one of the most beautiful jewels of wisdom. It is the result of long and patient effort in self-control. Its presence is an indication of ripened experience and of more than ordinary knowledge of the laws and operations of thought. A man becomes calm in the measure that he understands himself as a thought-evolved being. For such knowledge necessitates the understanding of others as the result of thought. And as he develops a right understanding and sees ever more clearly the internal relations of things by the action of cause and effect, he ceases to fuss, fume, worry, and grieve. He remains poised, steadfast, serene. The calm man, having learned about how to govern himself, knows how to adapt himself to others, and they in turn reverence his spiritual strength. They feel that they can learn from him and rely upon him. The more tranquil a man becomes, the greater is his success, his influence, his power for good. Even the ordinary trader will find his business prosperity increases as he develops a greater self-control and equanimity, for people will always prefer to deal with a man whose demeanor is equitable. The strong, calm man is always loved and revered. He is like a shade-giving tree in a thirsty land, or a sheltering rock in a storm. Who does not love a tranquil heart, a sweet-tempered, balanced life? It does not matter whether it rains or shines, or what changes come to those who possess these blessings, for they are always serene and calm. That exquisite poise of character that we call serenity is the last lesson of a culture. It is the flowering of life, the fruitage of the soul. It is precious as wisdom, more desirable than fine gold. How insignificant mere money-seeking looks in comparison with a serene life, a life that dwells in the ocean of truth beneath the waves, beyond the reach of the tempests, in the internal calm. How many people we know who sour their lives, who ruin all that is sweet and beautiful by explosive tempers, who destroy their poise of character and make bad blood. It is a question whether the great majority of people do not ruin their lives and mar their happiness by lack of self-control. How few people we meet in life who are well balanced, who have that exquisite poise which is characteristic of the finished character. Yes, humanity surges with uncontrolled passion, is tumultuous with ungoverned grief, is blown about by anxiety and doubt. Only the wise man, whose thoughts are controlled and purified, makes the winds and the storms of the soul obey him. Tempest-tossed souls, wherever you may be, under whatever conditions you may live, know this. In the ocean of life, the isles of blessedness are smiling, and the sunny shore of your ideal awaits your coming. Keep your hands firmly upon the helm of thought. In the core of your soul reclines the commanding master. He does but sleep. Wake him. Self-control is strength. Right thought is mastery. Calmness is power. Stay unto your heart. Peace. Be still. This is from a work called As a Man Thinketh. And a friend, I did a search on James Allen, just found his biography. And it says that a friend described Allen as a frail-looking little man, Christ-like, with a mass of flowing black hair. I think of him especially in the black velvet suit he always wore in the evenings, the friend wrote. He would talk quietly to a small group of us, English, French, Austrian, and Indian, of meditation, of philosophy, of Tolstoy or Buddha, and of killing nothing, not even a mouse in the garden. I find it interesting, there's another note on here that says James Allen's philosophy became possible when liberal Protestantism discarded the stern dogma that man is sinful by nature. It substituted for that dogma an optimistic belief in man's innate goodness and divine rationality. This reversal of doctrine was, as William James said, the greatest revolution of the 19th century. It was a part of a move toward reconciliation of the science and religion following Darwin's publication of The Origin of Species. This is all from this bio that I found on Allen. Charles Darwin himself hinted at the change in belief in the descent of man. In that book, he wrote, "The highest possible stage in moral culture is when we recognize that we ought to control our thoughts." Allen's work embodies the influence of Protestant liberalism on one hand and of Buddhist thought on the other. For example, the Buddha teaches all that we are is a result of what we have thought. Allen's biblical text says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." We become spiritually rich, Allen writes, when we discover the adventure within, when we are all conscious of the oneness of all life, when we know the power of meditation, when we experience kinship with nature. Thus, Allen teaches two essential truths. Today, we are where our thoughts have taken us, and we are the architects, for better or worse, of our futures. So in summary, this gentleman he lived in a town at the southwest coast of England, and his mornings, he would walk to a promontory, meditate for an hour, write in the morning, and garden in the afternoon. So his time was spent in nature, with nature, in contemplation of these principles. He read Tolstoy, read Buddha, and without question, I think if he were exposed to Tao teachings, that would have certainly resonated with him as well, because it's clear that this singular truth runs through his writings and his thought process. And again, the same thought, the same through line of action, this golden thread that Bill referenced is truth. It's just truth. And when we feel it, when we hear it, it resonates with us. I recognized this when I went to Yuquandao because people walk their talk. I come from a world where I know about bullshit, and there's plenty of it, as Bill mentioned as well, especially in the world of martial arts. Holy moly! And when you see people who are walking their talk, that live the teachings, without fanfare, without a desire for acclaim. That to me speaks a great deal, and it teaches me to be very on guard of my own ego, to just simply attempt to be a conduit and to look for no acclaim in anything that I might pass on, because they're simply thoughts that have gone long before me. And hopefully, as they pass through me, some of it will rub off, and I'll be able to take the advantage of that path and find a greater degree of serenity in my own life. So with that, it's great to talk to you guys. Have a nice Sunday.
Let's go ahead and do the meeting closing ritual. 起立，面向佛堂，持架深鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，持架各位点传世一鞠躬，结班一鞠躬。Okay, guys, we are done.